about what makes the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu different than the other prophets. We spoke at length about the nature of prophecy, how to receive prophecy. We explained that prophecy is like a broadcast, that the broadcast has not stopped. And the question is, do we have the antennae? And do we have the receptors to pick up on that frequency? And like we mentioned many times, that right now in the airwaves is Chinese radio, is Russian folk music. We just don't hear it. But if you would take out a shortwave radio, you could tune the dial and you could hear something which is here. And therefore, so too prophecy. Hashem is broadcasting. It's that our koyach hadimoyun, our receptor sites have become numbed and dulled and calcified. And therefore, the journey towards prophecy is a journey of refining the koyach hadimoyun, which the Rambam described essentially as a process of self-perfection through character development, wisdom, ashirus, humility. When Mashiach comes, we'll have this refined to a great level. However, the prophecy that we will have will not be on the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. And now we're moving into the next ikr, is that Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy was different than all other prophets. What were the main ways that his prophecy was different?
He was awake.
He was awake. So the other prophets were not awake?
He was like a printer.
So that's what my Chevera says, is that all the other prophets, they had to take the vision that they received in the koyach hadimoyun, and then their koyach haseichel had to then take that image they saw and then translate it into words based on the personality of the prophet. Masha'en came Moshe Rabbeinu, that the prophecy came right through him. He moved himself out of the way. There was no koyach haseichel explaining anything. It's that he was an absolute printer, if you will, that the Shechina was medaberes b'toich groinoi shel Moshe. And therefore, as the prophecy was coming through, Moshe was just an absolute vessel of that, which is an amazing thing. So yes, Moshe Rabbeinu was awake. Moshe Rabbeinu was awake. So all the other prophets, they had the prophecy in a type of dreamlike state. We saw machlokas before. Was it completely in a dream? Meaning, their body would be taken over. But would their body have to shake and convulse if they were in a dreamlike state? Or would they be able to be at peace in a dreamlike state? It was only at night when they were awake that they would go and convulse. So Moshe Rabbeinu was not like that. He was awake. He could stand. He could stand during his prophecy. Ubavoy Moshe el oil moyed ledaber itoy v'yishmes hakol medaber elav. So kol neviim, all the other prophets, aladei malach. The other prophets had the vision through a malach, through an angel. Lefikach royan mashem royan b'mashal v'chida. They saw what they saw through a type of metaphor, an analogy. That we're getting it through, remember, there's nothing physical here, we're talking about spiritual topics. They saw it through some type of a riddle. And then in the koyach haseichel, they had to then translate what was happening. They had to then compute what was happening in the koyach haseichel. Moshe Rabbeinu loy al yedei malach, shenemar pe el pe adaber boy. Hashem was speaking in the mouth of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's an amazing thing. V'ne'emar v'diber Hashem el Moshe ponim el ponim. V'ne'emar usmunas Hashem yabit kloimar she'ein sham moshel el roya hadavar al buriyoi. There was no moshel. That was the printing. It just printed out what Hashem was communicating. B'loy chida b'loy moshel v'hu she'atayra me'id alav b'mare v'loy b'chidois. I show you a vision, but there's nothing complex. There's no mashal. She'ena misnabe bechida, ela b'mara sheroya hadavar al buriyoi. Moshe Rabbeinu is seeing absolute clarity. What else is unique about Moshe Rabbeinu? Kol hanavim yireim v'nishavlim mismoigegin. Moshe Rabbeinu ein kein. All of the prophets would be in terror with what they were experiencing, and it would take over their bodies. The Rambam brings that pasuk like somebody speaks to a friend. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy with Hashem. When you speak to your friend, you're like, ah! Very intense friendship. So, the Rambam doesn't mean that it was like speaking like a God is like a human, God forbid. He means it's all by way of analogy. Kloimar, kamoy she'ein adam nival lishmaya divrei chaverai, in the same way that I don't get freaked out when, Charlie tells me something nice about his day, and it's pleasant to speak to him. So too, when Hashem spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, it was a very pleasant experience. He was not terrified by it. Whereas other prophets, some terror overcame them. That their physical self, with finite reference points, was now being overtaken by a completely new reality that was coming into them. And we described what was happening to the prophet as that started to occur. Yeah, Arya?
Wasn't there one prophet who, when he received a message from, I believe, an angel, he was so terrified he actually died in that moment and had to be brought back just to receive the full prophecy?
The prophetic experience overwhelms entirely. Only Moshe Rabbeinu was able to handle it and awake and without being terrified. Kach haya koyach b'daitoi shel Moshe Rabbeinu lahavin divrei hanavua v'hu oimed al amdoi shalem.
As we see at Har Sinai said that they got they basically felt they're all going to die.
Looks like they did. Parachim nishmasim, that we died.
A human's consciousness can't.
That's right. To have absolute the infinite creator sustainer of the world come and meet up with finite creation. That's what's going to be amazing about the Beis HaMikdash. Because the Beis HaMikdash was a place where heaven met earth. So it was a place that was miraculous when you would see it. That there were 10 nisim that were happening all the time in the Beis HaMikdash. And people, as soon as you got to the Beis HaMikdash, it was just like Pishut Yadayim V'Raglayim, Hishtach Havaya on the ground, which is an amazing sight to see. You would arrive at the Beis HaMikdash and you just prostrate. Is that prostrating is a sign of my physical. It wasn't like, you know how we do it on Yom Kippur? It's like, got a couple tissues out. Oh yeah! It's like a very like over the top, drawn out. I think I told you one time the story. There was a tzaddik that I heard about from a tzaddik that I think he was almost 100, and he was davening, and one of these tzaddikim, they used to have these bimas. They have tzaddikim daven in different places, different ways. So this tzaddik would daven Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur on this bima, above, and he was under his talus and the Chassidim knew when the time came for the Shtach Avoya, so they would all start bringing out mattresses and stuff because the Rebbe was gonna just
crowds
mamish, and he didn't look like he didn't. And they said that when the time came, and the bima had an opening, and they made sure the mattresses were there because the Rebbe was he just went for it. Pishut Yadayim V'Raglayim, I've had the merit of watching Reb Tzvi Meyer and Reb Tzvi Meyer both do Hishtach Havaya, and everyone, it's always hard because you're trying to see the tzaddik. They just go. It's very, very moving, and it gives you a taste a little bit of in Beis HaMikdash, like when you just encounter that amount of pure ruchnius, that it overtook the body. The body, the Rosh Yeshiva speaks to people and he says, practice bowing. Like we bow, like. So, the act of bowing is a symbol of subjugation. He said, practice it. He didn't not say like in front of the mirror, but he said like, close the door, nobody's watching, just go in your room, just practicing. And the feeling like, okay, let's try again. The feeling of, my physicalness is being subjugated to a higher, all-encompassing reality, where my physicality is starting to be taken over by a much greater ore. And the Beis Hamikdash is where we encountered that. That's why a lot of things in the Beis Hamikdash, physicality stopped taking up space, which is an amazing thing. How big was the Kodesh HaKadoshim? 20 amas. So, and if I measured from, let's say this is the Aron Kodesh, from this edge to the wall was 10 amas, and this edge to the wall was 10 amas, and from that wall to that wall was 20 amas. The math works out, right?
No.
Let's do it again. From this wall, from here to that wall is 10 amas, from here to there is 10 amas, and the entire way across is 20 amas.
It's like a bad reality.
We're missing the space for middle section.
So where is this?
Where is it?
You tell me.
Reality, so it's just, I don't know.
Didn't the walls expand?
No, it's just, I don't even know.
Are you saying?
From here, from this edge to the wall is 10 amas. From this edge is 10 amas. From that wall to that wall is 20 amas. So where is this Aron? Where is it? What do you say, Mendel? It was a place where the normal laws of physicality started to not work as we know it, where spirituality was meeting physicality, where heaven is meeting earth. That's why in the Beis HaMikdash, this is the spot. And this is going to be ultimately the spot that all of humanity is going to come. Ki beisi beis tefillah yukar l'kol ha'amim. That it will be a house of prayer for all the nations. That God is for humanity. Humanity will come and see that this is a home. That you also can experience the infinite creator, sustainer of heaven and earth. So when the prophetic experience was happening, the prophet was overtaken by this, except Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu was awake, and he was able to handle it, and he wasn't overtaken. And the last point we'll say, Kol hanavim ein misnabim bekol eish sheyirtzu. All the other prophets could not initiate prophecy anytime they wanted. They had to get into a feeling state. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, we've got hours. All the other prophets could not initiate prophecy anytime they wanted. We described they had musicians. They had an entire. They were the Bnei HaNeviim. They would be around Neviim and they would be arousing themselves, working on their character traits in order to allow that prophetic experience to happen. And music was a major part of it, as we spoke about. Moshe Rabbeinu Eino Kain, but Moshe was different. Ela kol zman sheyachpoitz, any time that Moshe wanted, Ruach HaKodesh lo yivashtoi u'nevuah shoira alav. Moshe Rabbeinu could arouse any time the Ruach HaKodesh, it would encloak him, and nevuah would rest upon Moshe Rabbeinu.
Here's a question. Just thinking about we're thinking about Hishtachavaya and music. Like, if you've ever stopped, let's say you see how the Muslims, they pull out their mat. Now, I always thought it was beautiful. Like, I love to just pull up, it's mat Seder, let's hit the mat. Let's grapple. And it's they go full, they definitely practice bowing. They have beautiful bowing.
Yes.
And it's very spiritual. It's I don't this morning, I got back here, and I was thinking, where do I want to dive? I gotta go to my phone, I gotta go down to Koso, obviously. And are our modern structures of minyan set up for the like the no shtachavoya. There's no like music and like it's like okay, we start at 8. We gotta be like Psukim B'Shem at 8:18.
Depends where you
Gotta
are.
be like Baruch Hu at 8:32. Gotta be, and you're like, I'm saying like, how do we?
Come to the Tzimaya. I never one time saw anything to do with, some card that, by the bima
Right.
with the rules that had something to do with what time you have to
And
get
how do we
to.
incorporate this
Ishta-
into
Ishta-
our regular minyanim. We want to be at that level of like every day, right?
I think being in around tzaddikim, where they take davening as a prophetically serious, like as an experience of such seriousness that is a way of going towards the prophetic experience. They see what davening is in that way.
We just learned they actualize.
That's right, and they're living with that.
With davening with
I
Tzaddik.
I find davening with them like breaks a lot of those rules, and just gives you this feeling like you're so uplifted.
We're not checking boxes here.
Yeah, you just that's that, and something that makes them uncomfortable. Like they look downstairs, and many of them will have zmanim. Like you look downstairs, it says chakras, like 8:30. Sometimes it'll even say bidiyuk, and then you're like, it's like 9. Guys are still sipping their coffees. Everyone's like, I thought it was bidiyuk. People are still walking in. Like, wasn't it? No, bidiyuk meant like,
What does that mean?
it's precisely 8:30. No, it meant like we're in the process at that moment exactly of getting ready for davening. Like it started. Now, when Tzimar says that davening starts at 5:30 in the morning for a 3-hour seder, he is sitting there at 5:30 in the morning. And in Shovim, it starts 5 hours before davening.
Wow.
You have a 5-hour seder for Shovim, 3:30 a.m. And he is there.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, I told some of the Chevera that. So that's a tall order, and it's not like they're ending, davening in the Suda early Friday night.
But could we get it in, let's say, a regular? Okay, the average person can't. But could we get in, let's say, like a 40-minute chakras?
We have to want it.
Right, but how do we?
You can't get something you don't want.
How could we get it in a regular 40-minute chakras, in a 15-minute mincha, and a 10, 15-minute martyr?
So I think if a person, you should know, there were some tzaddikim that davened quick. Ger is famous for davening quick. So the Ger Rebbe gave a mashal. He said there was somebody who was on a wagon, and the wagon was going. It was going a little bit slowly, and all of a sudden these bandits jumped onto the wagon, and they started to open up the doors of the wagon. They're trying to pull the guy out of the wagon. All of a sudden the guy told them, quick, and the wagon starts driving quickly, and all the bandits fly off the wagon. So he said sometimes when you go too slow and you're davening, you get this bandit that comes into your head, and these bills you got to pay, and this thing comes in, and that trip to the Caribbean that happened 15 years ago on spring break. And all of a sudden you're like, if you would have sped up the wagon, then all of that falls away. So you have to know sometimes when the wagon has to be fast and sometimes slow. I find if you daven with tzaddikim and people that are really in the zone, even when you're not in that zone and you have some quicker minyan, you're so lit up from the experience of having those special tefillahs that it carries with you. It's called moichen the godless. That expanded consciousness carries forth even when it's a little bit more quick. We should be zeicha mamish to all the brachas of the Torah. We'll be continuing with Moshe Rabbeinu's prophecy next time. Kol Tuv.